Jim Rowan, how you going? It's podcast number 16, and it's the one I promised yesterday because there was 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom, evidently, and I went over an hour talking about the first one, so I didn't want to fall asleep during the second half of the episode. I thought I'd cut it off and I'd start a new one. We'll also go through the New Year Dash show, so I'll get straight into it. Although we are on a new day here, so I have to do a weather check. It's the 10th of January, 2021, and it is once again a cloudy day. But that's all right. We're in lockdown anyway. Straight to it. January 5th. So look, I'm only 5 days behind. That's not too bad. Of Wrestle Kingdom took place January 5th, 2021, Tokyo Dome. Oh, can you hear that in the background? I need the window open, otherwise I'll suffocate in here. So we're just going to have to deal with the motorbikes. King of Pro Wrestling 2021 trophy, the opening match on this show. Bushi versus Chase Owens versus Bad Luck Fale versus Toru Yano for a star-studded, incredible beginning, and the fireworks shoot into the air to signal the start of this show. And Bushi's music starts, like of all people. It's Bushi that comes out. Big fireworks ceremony. And then he trips on his way to the ring, and Rocky makes fun of him, because Rocky hates Bushi. Apparently he steals his moves or something. And Rocky's got his money on Yano winning, which is a fair bet, I think. So I think you can tell I'm a little bitter about how this event is starting with these guys. Although, I mean, I understand it's an undercard match. You want undercard wrestlers on the undercard match. I guess it's just more of a kick in the guts when you consider all of the talent not on this show. But it turns out to be a great show. We'll get there. Let's get through this first. So Owens and Fale are there. Their tactic is obvious. They're going to try and work together. Yano's tactic, as they did last night, and then Yano's tactic last night was to never even enter the ring, which worked great for him. And Bushi's tactic was to never enter the ring. He did enter the ring, but then he exited the ring, so just basically to stay outside of the ring. So both solid game plans on the first night, obviously, to get them to this point, but the Bullet Club Brains Trust thwarts them here, with Owens taking a finger poke of doom and allowing Fale to pin him. So that forces Yano and Bushi back into the ring so they can break up the pinfall. Then Fale throws Yano straight back out, and Chase has to deal with Bushi. And they have a decent little sequence there. Yano gets back in and nearly rolls up Bushi. Then he removes a turnbuckle pad. Bushi and Owens work together for a little bit, and then Fale comes back in. It's kind of just a bit of a mess. Everyone attacking each other, and one guy attacks the other. Some other guy comes in, attacks that guy. Some other guy comes in, attacks that guy. You know the deal. Fale gets involved with when Chase and Bushi are back in, though, and they hit a grenade launcher. The grenade from Fale into the German suplex by Owens, the move they've been doing from the Tag League tournament. But Chase makes the cover, and then Fale breaks it up. And he pins Bushi himself, and now despite them seeming to have a plan right at the beginning, now they're arguing over who should win. And the referee gets too close to all of this, so they pick him up to keep him out of it. And that's when Yano slides in, who's out of the view of the referee. He low blows both of them, so they drop the ref. And then Bushi's still down, because he's a complete jobber. And Yano pins Bushi with, the referee saw all that. So he didn't see the low blows, but he was unharmed and was able to make the pinfall count. So Yano is He ended last year, 2020, as the King of Pro Wrestling winner, and he becomes the first King of Pro Wrestling 2021 winner. And Chase calls this a conspiracy on his way out. Yes, I'm sure there's very powerful conspirators behind Yano winning a nothing prize. So backstage, Yano celebrates this humongous victory, and though he concedes, however, that this battle was not quite as vicious as what he went through last night, which of course was a battle in which he did not compete. He never even got in the ring. And then he just talks about the bond between his trophy. He and his trophy is, he thinks these trophies are his children. So Chase Owens would never understand, Yano. Anyway, look, that's the opener, and we're done with it. 6 minutes, good. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship is the first actual match. Ryusuke Taguchi and Master Wato challenge. Oh, but they've got Tenzan with them, and they're challenging Yoshinobu Kanemaru and El Desperado, the champions, of course. So Wato is enthusiastic, if nothing else. He goes flying in at Despy right at the beginning, as he has been doing in recent matches. But Despy sends him flying into Tenzan, and Diva Tenzan does not take a graceful fall. Stays down a while. And then Despy keeps the referee busy while Kanemaru slams Taguchi's knee down on a chair. And of course, Kanemaru, the heel master, of course, he's going to do absolutely everything he can outside of the rules to get a victory here. He pushes the referee in front of Wato multiple times, slowing his progress. And the referee just kind of deals with this as a perk of the job, just something that happens. He gets paid to be pushed in front of wrestlers. This is fine. He doesn't even so much as shake his head at this. So why wouldn't Kanemaru do it, Anyway, and then it's Taguchi who pulls, that move he does, he's on the top turnbuckle and he puts his feet around the neck of the opponent. And unfortunately, it's for Despy, it's him. And then he kind of pulls Despy's face into his ass multiple times. So that there is a perfect reason for Desperado to keep his mask on. At least there's a little bit of separation between him and the bumhole of Taguchi, the pervert. And Kanemaru, he takes care of Wato, while Numero Dos has Taguchi in big trouble. Despy's submission move, of course, and but he resists that. The funky weapon does. He gets out of that. He gets out of a Pinche Loco attempt as well. He reverses that into an ankle lock. He calls in Wato, who hits this slow motion 619, but the referee's in the way of the camera, so you can't really see it, which is probably a good thing, because from what I could see, it looked terrible. And then Taguchi gets, they pretend it worked, so Taguchi hits like a gutbuster version of the Dodon. But Wato, his inexperience, he doesn't see Kanemaru coming in to break up the pin, so he's stuffed up there. Taguchi still tries to coach him toward victory, but Kanemaru becomes involved because Wato's let him down again, so Taguchi's got to do it himself. He tries a Dodon, it's rolled into a pin. Taguchi has to kick out because Wato's too slow on the pin break. He does the Bummer-Yay on Despy, but that one's kicked out of as well. Kanemaru comes forward with his whiskey bottle, but Taguchi shoves Despy right into him. The bottle does distract the referee though, so Desperado punches Taguchi in the face, and that's enough for him to get the Pinche Loco, which secures a pinfall victory. Wato really dropped the ball on this one, but you know what, he was I think that's the story anyway. I think that's what I got from it. Not that I'm certainly not out to get Wato. I'm a huge fan. Huge fan of Blue Grandma. And, but yeah, I think that's kind of what's going on here. He was fun to watch, though. He's fun to watch. He jumps around and does flips and spins and stuff. It's great. Champions retain here, though. No gold for the Wato yet. He says after the match, he kind of actually doesn't really accept the loss. He asks if the winners can call themselves that after all those tricks. And I think he needs to take some accountability, mate. Wato. He doesn't care what they think of him. He says they can say and think whatever they want. His spirit will continue to burn bright blue. And then he runs away from the microphone because Tenzan just comes in and sees him, and Wato's like, okay, I've said something, I'm leaving now, and he just quickly runs away. He'll get better, I'm sure. I shouldn't say I'm sure. I'm not sure he'll get better. Tenzan just kind of seems to speak diplomatically about the match, and kind of he's still got high hopes for Wato. He sees gold in his future, but Taguchi doesn't appear, probably pissed off with how Wato went. And then the champions enter together. Kanemaru says Wato has determination, if nothing else. Despy mutters that he can't help but want to kill him. They seem to be offering Wato advice themselves, like it's kind of backhanded advice, but everyone seems to be in on this Wato project. He gets a lot of comments from a lot of different people. I guess, I don't know, maybe they feel sorry for him or something. But Despy asks if there's any questions, and it seems like either the entire press at New Japan shows are just all a bunch of John Morgans, or there's just one John Morgan, and like the real John Morgan, he hogs all the questions. Sorry, by the way, if you don't know who John Morgan is, just watch a UFC press conference, and whoever asks the first question, it's probably going to be something like, "You had a victory. How do you feel about that?" That's John Morgan. They sit there anyway, they're begging for questions. Despy points out one guy, "What about you, fatty?" So I'm guessing he's probably pointing at that poor soul that got abused by Kenta throughout the G1. But that's it, they didn't get anything interesting, so they tell their next challengers to show themselves and they leave to go drinking. Alright, now we're getting serious. The Never Openweight Championship. Jeff Cobb's taking on the champion, Shingo Takagi. The commentators argue over whether Jeff asked Will to join this Empire group or if it was the other way around, and it really annoys me that they're making me imagine the dopey conversation those two would have had. Like, just the way they talk. Okay. Like Will Ospreay. I, Commonwealth Kingpin Will Ospreay, am cordially inviting you, Jeffrey Cobblestone, to be a shining white knight for the Empire. Well, Will Ospreay, I am Jeff Cobb, and everyone keeps asking me if I'm shiny like a knight, and I am like a knight and shiny, and I'm a knight when it gets to night time and also at other times, and it's time for Jeff Cobb to show people that he is the real coconut, because coconuts are hard and so is Jeff Cobb, and everyone keeps asking me if I am Coconut Cobb. Alright, sorry, I'm getting carried away with this. This is a great match to come here, and it starts as you'd expect. Let's get into it, forget that, sorry. As you'd expect, couple of big bulls locking horns, going at each other. Cobb kind of shoves at Shingo. They bounce back and forth with a couple of shoulder tackles. Shingo gets the first knockdown, but goes flying off of Cobb when he makes the pin. And then Shingo's dumped out of the ring. He's thrown into the barricade. There's this massive belly to belly. It's a deadlift. He's lifted his legs up, and Cobb just launches him into the air with this belly to belly, with a hard landing, of course, on the outside of the ring there. And Cobb stays on top for a while. He's gaining in confidence, which might have led to his ambitious crucifix powerbomb, because he has Shingo on the turnbuckle, and then he picks him up right up above his head, crucifix style, Razor Ramon style, and then he sidesteps along the apron to try to do it outside the ring. But luckily Shingo escapes. He kind of drops on the other side of the ring, and then he starts doing some crazy stuff. He goes flipping over the top rope at Cobb, and then he does that back elbow off the turnbuckle when they get back in the ring. So he's trying some different stuff here, some high flying. And maybe that was the right thing to do, because he tries the Noshigami, and Cobb overpowers him and hits a spin cycle. And then Cobb takes over a bit with those gut wrench suplexes that he strings together. Shingo tries the Noshigami again, but this time it's reversed into this monster Black Tiger Bomb, which also starts as a... Oh, gee, I wonder if that's what he was going to do, because that starts as a crucifix power bomb, and then he throws Shingo into the air over his head to just kind of add some extra gravity, and then drops down into a sit-out power bomb. Imagine if he did that to the outside. That'd be insane. And at this point, Shingo knows that if he's going to successfully defend this title, he needs to do something. So he kind of just has this surge of energy, hits a Death Valley driver. He manages to lift Cobb to the top turnbuckle and hit a superplex. There's then a wheelbarrow superplex. And you might think, where's this strength coming from? But Shingo told you. He told you in his interviews, there's a strength within. And... But yeah, and then, of course, Cobb realizes, oh, now I'm losing momentum. So they're trading suplexes, they're trading slaps and forearms. Cobb tries a tour of the islands, but Takagi grass cuts him. He shoulder blocks the left leg, and then he hits a leg whip. And then he hits Made in Japan with a really impressive mid-air delay, impressive show of strength. It was around this point Rocky calls for this title to be renamed the BMF title, which again is a UFC reference. For those that don't know, baddest mother effer. I don't know. Well, I try and censor myself where I can, and you can finish the rest, I'm sure. Anyway, Shingo starts throwing lariats. Cobb won't go down. Comes back with a released German suplex, and then he swings him back into the ropes and hits Tour of the Islands. But when Cobb lands, his left knee gives out as it hits the mat. So, because that was the same knee Shingo worked a little bit earlier. Not a whole lot, but it was enough to delay the pin here. So Cobb crawls over to him, but Shingo's legs are too close to the rope, so that buys him a bit more time. That breaks the first cover, then Cobb rolls him right up, but Takagi manages to kick out of that one. So Cobb needs something bigger and better. He yanks Shingo up the turnbuckles. Like, Shingo was on the apron, and he just picks him up. It looks so dangerous for a moment, because there would have been nothing Shingo could do about it. It was getting just carried around like a child. But he recovers quickly, dropping down and hitting a powerbomb off the turnbuckle to Cobb. And then Cobb, out of necessity if nothing else, recovers quickly from that. And he goes for the tour again. But Shingo disembarks and runs into something a little less uniform, a Gachimochi Salt, which is kind of like, well, it's a I guess like a power slam with a moonsault, but he kind of did it on an angle, and all of Jeff Cobb's weight comes down on, I guess it would have been like his left shoulder, and it just looked like it crushed Shingo's sternum, and he cries out. But he's not done yet. because Cobb goes for the tour again, but he's denied by a lariat, or a pumping bomber, I guess you could call it. And they clash again and again. There's headbutts, there's punches. They're throwing everything at each other at this point. And finally Shingo slams Cobb down with a move that, I couldn't think of a name of. I think it was kind of like a fall away slam, or maybe like a turning power slam or something like that. But it looked cool and it worked because he he tries to rev up the crowd as much as he can. All they can do is clap, and he hits a huge pumping bomber, which is, it's cool that Cobb is so athletic and he can sell that in such a dramatic way. And then he hoists Cobb up on his shoulders, perhaps with his last ounce of inner strength, and slams Cobb down with Last of the Dragon to win the match. And what a match. In fact, now that I think about it, I made quite a bit of fun at the start of this of Jeff Cobb, and I feel bad because this was such a good match. One of the best matches of the weekend. Sorry, it's not a weekend, of the 2 days. And they really sold the idea that they gave everything. And it's a good example of Cobb looking great in defeat. Like, it raised Cobb's... I think a lot of people expected Cobb to win this one, especially given the lack of success of the Empire on the first night. But that was cool. I like that it was a bit unexpected, because I think I probably, if someone asked me to bet on it, I probably would have gone Cobb. But I'm a big Shingo fan, so I was happy to see that. And as you can tell, and certainly if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I am not exactly Cobb's biggest fan. Despite wanting to be. I'm a wannabe Cobb fan. There's a few people like that. They just fall short in certain ways. But there was nothing about Cobb's performance in this match that fell short, that's for sure. This was, I don't know, I've never seen him in a match this great. I dare say he's never been in one this great. So yeah, that's definitely one I'm going to have to go back and watch again. I'm going to put that on a list, and one of the best matches of the year, I'm sure. Not even the best match on this card, by the way, but one of the best matches of the year. This was a real surprise card. I don't want to go into it too far right now, but I had a lot of fun watching this whole card, except the first two, which of course I made a lot of fun of. It gets more serious as it goes on, this review. Anyway, so backstage, Shingo just says it's an awesome way to start the year, but he's completely beat up. He wants to face Cobb again because even from that victory, he doesn't feel like a winner yet. And he said, he said this to Cobb in the ring, that he wants a rematch, but Cobb ignored him. That's what Shingo said anyway. And then he says that, that this victory was a payback for the 2020 loss, and then his new year starts tomorrow, so he wants something interesting on tomorrow's card at New Year Dash. But that's pretty much all he had to say. Cobb doesn't appear for an interview, which is good news. It means that his whole contribution to this card was fantastic. He didn't ruin it. And then there's another one of these, if you watched the show yesterday, there was these Naito and Kidani advertisements for the mobile game, Strong Spirits. And this one's different though. It's Naito intimidating his boss, and then they enter a smoky room and they begin circling each other whilst removing their clothing. It was pretty weird, but luckily it ended before things got too steamy. I don't know. I don't know if I want the translation of that one. Japan can be a little weird. I mean, we can all be a little weird, but Japan's got their own special weirdness. And it was on display in that ad, let me tell you. Moving on, our next match is between former tag team partners, former tag team champions former stablemates, former friends. It's a tragedy. And it was a tragedy of a match. I'm just going to tell you right now, it wasn't what I wanted it to be. Evil with Dick Togo versus Sonata. Yeah, you thought I was all positive after that last one. I tell you what, I don't want to be mean, but Chris Charlton is talking some shit before this one. He's like reciting a poem or something. It's really over the top. And the other two in the commentary booth are just like, okay, cool. Just really kind of unsure of what to say. But anyway, yeah, Sonata comes out. It looked like he really struggled with the slope of the ramp. It looks like he was hobbling, but I think he was just really carefully making his way down the ramp, which makes sense. I guess, that would be one of my fears. I wouldn't want to fall over, even though it's not a full stadium. It's still a lot of people to fall over in front of. And Bushi did it. Well, actually, Bushi didn't fall over, but maybe he made comment to Sonata when he went back there, like, oh, don't do what I did. Don't be tripping up down there. So Sonata takes his time and really plants his feet as he walks out to the ring. And Marty Asami is the referee for this one. He warns Togo. Like, I don't know what that's going to do, but at least he is making an effort. So they start cautiously when the match begins, which is worrying, but because I kind of wanted it to be, and I know I said this, if you listen to the I guess 2 weeks ago when I was previewing all of this, no wait 1 week ago, I've done so many podcasts recently it's kind of hard to keep up, but the preview to this, I was saying, like, I don't want to see a normal match between these two because it's going to be a bore. I want to see, and I don't like death matches. I don't like, hardcore or whatever you want to call it. But at least that's something different from Sonata, was kind of my point of view. And that's not how they start here. They kind of just start as a lot of their matches start. They try their best moves on each other early, and they both know each other too well for that to work. And then Sonata does fall for the, they do the spot where they both catch each other's kick, and then they both promise that they're going to put, the other one's going to, we're both going to put each other's foot down on the, 3, 2, 1, and then of course Evil doesn't do it, so Sonata looks like a complete idiot. But right after that he puts Evil into the Paradise Lock, and you can barely look like more of an idiot than when being in that. So he gets his due, I guess, or yeah. I'm sorry. You already know how negative I am on this match. If you've seen the match, you know that it's not the match I wanted it to be. Let's get through it. So Evil, he does his baseball spot, slogging the chair around Sonata's neck with another chair. Evil pulls out a table as well. He sets that up on the outside of the ring in front of the commentators. And you know what? I'll give Charlton some credit here, since I sort of made fun of him before. He says that the Evil part of their former tag team was adding the element that Sonata lacked, which I think is an interesting comment, because that, Evil hasn't changed that much. I mean, he's, for example, been doing that stupid baseball spot for a long time. Sonata never really did anything like that, but that's what made them a good team. That you could kind of have Sonata as the technical guy and Evil as the roughhouse kind of guy, and the guy willing to take it a little bit further in order to take the victory. So yeah, but I still like Shingo and Sonata better. Togo, for some reason, didn't listen to the referee earlier, and he gets involved when there's a distraction to hit Sonata with a chair, although it's off camera. And then he, continues, of course, to involve himself. Every time Sonata seems to get a little bit of an advantage back, they'll both work together to cut him off. Until there was a really pretty tiger suplex that earned a 2 count for Sonata, and then he locked the skull end in. But, Evil like claws at his face and his ears to get out of it. There was a Scorpion Deathlock that he tries. Sonata gets to the ropes. He goes for everything is evil, but Sonata shakes that off. Sonata comes back with the backbreaker, that terrible Muto backbreaker, and then the moonsault, but Evil rolls out of the way of that one. Sonata, I guess, saw that happening because he lands on his feet, but his knee buckles, I suppose, from the Scorpion Deathlock. And then Evil catches Sonata's leg and swings it to the referee, so Togo jumps in with the chair and swings it into the referee, like knocking him down. So Togo uses that to jump in and hits Sonata in the ribs with the chair and punches him in the head a few times. Sonata kicks Evil into the ropes to knock Togo out of the ring, and that distracts Evil, so Sonata gets the skull end in the center of the ring with the body lock, but he lets go. I can't tell you which podcast it was, but I've already done a big rant on this bloody move, and I'm not going to do it again. Let's continue. Sonata lets go of his move, hits the moonsault to the back of Evil, and then he goes back up to hit it to the Evil's front, but that time Evil got the knees up. This is about 20 minutes into the match, and then he tries another skull, and Evil pushes him toward Togo, who has his little chokey cord ready on the apron, but Sonata overpowers Togo, and then he dodges Evil, and then he kicks Evil into Togo, who's on the apron on the side where the table is. But I guess he felt he still needed to do this really exaggerated hop off the apron in order to go through the table. And in fairness, as I mentioned in the yesterday's podcast, those tables are infamously rigid, so fair play to him. He wanted to make sure he really crushed it, and he did. He went right through it. So that's the end of Togo for now. Evil signals the end for Sonata in the ring. He goes for his STO, but it's reversed into a skull end. Evil breaks the hold and tries a low blow, but Sonata sees it coming. He catches it, and he hits the STO himself, the Everything is Evil STO. And then there's a pop-up TKO, and then he heads to the corner, hits a perfect moonsault, and wins via pinfall. Sonata. So, and look, it was a good match. It just wasn't the match I wanted it to be. So, and after the match, in fairness, the commentary team were talking about how it was a moral victory for Sonata, and that he didn't stoop to the level of Evil, and he still managed to win. And that's good, I guess. I think this is more me just not. I want to like Sonata matches more. So it would have been cool if he did something different, because I don't always love Sonata matches. But you know what? This is fine. At the same time, I don't want everyone to be the same, and I'm not going to like everyone's style. So, and there's plenty of people that like Sonata matches, so fair enough. I hope you like this one. It wasn't my cup of tea in particular, but I still kind of like Sonata. I think I like the idea of Sonata more so than when I'm 15 minutes into watching a Sonata match, but whatever. So he won. Good for him. Neither of them appeared at the press conference afterwards. And, oh gosh. Oh no. I said after the Shingo match, when I was on a high, that I really enjoyed this card. I kinda... You know what? I'm not going to preface it. I'm not going to say anything. Let's just talk about the match. Let's talk about it. Well, I'll talk about it. You can comment about it if you'd like. Below. Please do. Like and subscribe. All that jazz. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Hiromu Takahashi versus Taiji Ishimori. The champion, of course. The second there, Ishimori. Bone Soldier. And if his Karen haircut wasn't bad enough. Now he's got a blonde extension, or blonde and purple, actually, coming out from underneath his Karen cut. I don't know what he was thinking. That's like, but that's his big Wrestle Kingdom fancy dress deal there. Getting a little extension put in, baby ponytail. Cool. So the match starts with a lot of running and flipping. The first real damage is dealt by Hiromu with a powerbomb on the apron edge. And he moves further from the ring. He hits a scoop slam on the ramp. And then he heads up the ramp doing the Muto gimmick, leading a clap for the fans as he does. And then he turns back and he sprints at Ishimori. But he's only had to suffer 2 moves. So of course he's ready to get up. And he catches a drop kick and slams Hiromu down on the ramp. And then he gets back in the ring and he removes the turnbuckle pad. And I'm thinking, oh wow, maybe Ishimori's finally going to be a bit more heelish. Not that I particularly like that, but it was kind of interesting that he was almost a babyface whilst running with the Bullet Club crew for, a while now. He's generally pretty, sticks to the rules. But anyway, so they get back in the ring. And there's an awful lot of moves that happen back and forth very quickly. And there's too much for me to write them all down. And anyway, even if I did, I'd just be naming moves. They're not really... They don't seem to be... I guess, as the cranky old wrestlers would say, slow down and make it mean something, is what I'm kind of getting at. And I'm not even that old. Or a wrestler. Ishimori gets the crossface in though, the bone lock, as he calls it. And that's applied for a time, but Hiromu gets to the ropes. And again, Ishimori releases it immediately, so I don't think anyone else in the Bullet Club would have done that. Hiromu goes for a time bomb, but Ishimori squirrels out, only to fly into a German suplex. And then Hiromu hits this running Canadian destroyer. Again, they're kind of, there's all these big moves, but they don't seem to be really telling a story so much. In my view, maybe I'm missing it. I'm no expert. But it just seems to be a bunch of moves rather than, telling me that they're evenly matched or telling me that, they know each other's moves so well, so they're countering each other a lot. That's obviously what... So, for example, at the start of the Sonata and Evil match, that's what they were doing at the start, trying to catch each other with something big, even though both of them, they just know each other too well. But in this one, I don't know, I'm not really getting that feeling. It just seems like they're both throwing everything at the wall and seeing what comes out. I guess that's a storyline in itself, but I don't know. It doesn't seem clear, the psychology of this one, to me. There is a moment after this, though. Ishimori starts throwing these big Elmos right at Cookie Monster. Sorry, he's throwing big elbows or forearms, whatever you want to call them. And Hiromu's just kind of running straight into him, like just hands down, face first. I guess, this could be almost like an Ishii kind of idea where he's just trying to show how tough he is. And he just kind of keeps getting back up and coming for more. There's a cool sell when Ishimori hits a particularly big elbow and Hiromu falls straight back, but with his feet still under him, like his back's over the top of his ankles. That one looked good. And then Ishimori goes back to the shoulder with a shoulder breaker. He's not really worried about the hand, of course. You would think that would be an element of this match, that Hiromu's just come off a match with this guy's tag team partner, who specifically injured Hiromu's hand, and Ishimori's not making use of that, which, in fairness, is honorable that he's going for the shoulder, because that's more to do with him locking in his crossface. But I don't know, it's kind of that, why did you introduce that element if it wasn't going to be used kind of thing. And then, although, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that as honorable as not attacking the hand is, Hiromu's got a bad neck, and that's an awful lot more dangerous to be attacking his neck, which he is really with the crossface. But at the same time, it's not like he adopted the crossface because Hiromu hurt his neck. That's just his move. Anyway, look, this is about 20 minutes in at this point. And then they just kind of start hitting their biggest moves, kind of their signature moves and whatnot, along with any bone lock attempts that Ishimori can fit in. Then finally, Hiromu hits the time bomb, but Ishimori survives the blast, as you could say. Hiromu then goes for the time bomb 2, but Ishimori escapes that, only for that counter to be countered, and then that counter is countered, and then there's some more counters, and then suddenly Hiromu finds himself face down on the mat in the bone lock again. But this is something I've noticed with Ishimori. He sometimes when he quickly transitions into it, there's a lot of space between him and his opponent, and he's got to kind of try to readjust and shuffle. But instead, when he readjusts this time, he just goes straight for the bloody cross. He did that a few times in Best of Super Juniors as well. But this time, bloody cross is countered into another victory royale, and then that sets up the opportunity for the time bomb 2, which connects, and Hiromu wins. So, I guess I should say, again, it wasn't a bad match. It just, what should I say? I mean, look, honestly, it even sounded like Kevin Kelly was underwhelmed with it. Because this is the co-main event. It's a big deal. It's really meant to be like, we've got a star in the junior heavyweight division. We really want to make the junior heavyweight division matter, because for a long time it hasn't. And they put it in the co-main event. And I just don't think that this, and I don't know, I'm not blaming anyone, but I just don't think this was the match that they needed if they really wanted to do that. I think they've got the guy to do it. I don't know if Ishimori is the other guy. Yeah, it just, I don't know. It didn't connect with me. Again, it could be my fault. I could be missing something. I should once again say, not claiming to be an expert. This is just me writing down what I thought as I watched it, and now I'm talking about it. That's it. And you know what? I think it's also important to mention, I'm holding these guys to very high standards. Very high standards. So when I say it wasn't quite what I wanted, it was still a really good match. Maybe not really good. It was a good match. I don't know. In that realm, it was very well performed. I guess it was just lacking a bit of a storytelling element that really puts matches over the top for me. That puts them in that great category. Yeah, but look, it's not a bad thing, or it's not bad moving forward. They'll be fine. Let's see what Hiromu does with this run. He's got Show next. That should actually be a really good match. We'll see, and we'll get to that. Actually, bit of a spoiler, but I'm not doing too bad on time. I've only got one match left here, and then we'll cover the New Year Dash show. But I'll get to the promos. So Hiromu, actually first was Ishimori backstage. He laments the fact that he couldn't defend his title even just once, which is kind of, obviously it was because they had to cram all of those tournaments into a small space of time, but yeah, he won it, August or something? So he held it for a fair while there without defending it. Or maybe it was even, was it that outdoor show? That was like April or something like that. I don't know. He's held it for a while and never defended it. But yeah, he kind of really gives it up for Hiromu. He says he was beaten by the Best of Super Juniors winner. He was beaten by the guy that beat the Super J Cup winner. He was beaten by the guy at the top of the division, and he says he's going to elevate the IWGP title. but he's disappointed because he says that's what he wanted to do. And he also concedes that he had the advantage of being fresh, but he couldn't even hit his finisher once. So really down on himself, Ishimori. Hiromu's spirit is just that much stronger, but he won't give up. I mean, this is all babyface stuff. It sounds like he's given up on being a heel, but he did that a long time ago. Maybe Phantasmo can teach him some stuff. And actually, he does mention Phantasmo. He says with him, he will bring titles to Bullet Club. So they might go in the tag direction. Then Hiromu comes in, and he's got his hands full with his trophy and his title belt and his humongous coat. Maybe I think he just had his jacket at this point. But that coat he has is humongous. He just wants to take a moment. He takes a big swig of Zima and goes, "Yummy!" And then he says, "It's good for my wounds." And then he just talks about how both fights were very different. He didn't like the tricks from last night, but he appreciates different styles of wrestling and facing different styles of wrestlers. He says Ishimori was a deserving champion. He looks at the belt and he talks to it. "Long time no see, Mr. Belt. This is your new friend, Super Junior 27 trophy. Say hello." And then he calls out Sho. This is Hiromu, not the belt, talking still. Hiromu calls out Sho. Because, of course, Sho got a victory over him in Best of Super Juniors. So, yeah, that's the next match. And that should be good. I mean, I think they were kind of... Sho was maybe looking to move out of the junior division, more so heading toward the openweight title for a while there. But look, if they can't just keep having people graduate out of the division, graduate in inverted commas, if they want it to be a division on its own, if they want to treat it like its own division, then smaller guys that are good should stay there. And then you've got the openweight title for those matches that would be fun to see between the two divisions. Enough about that, though, and enough of the negativity. If I've seemed negative throughout this, I don't, I don't apologize necessarily. I told you what I thought. But if you didn't like it, I promise you I enjoyed the main event, which is next. What I would like to apologize for, though, is that I think I might just have to read you what I wrote. I don't like reading for these. I like just kind of, I write as I go, and then I just highlight the main parts and I just try to talk about it. I use notes for the podcast because, I don't know, it doesn't sound good when you're just reading it. Plus, if you want to read it, just go read it. I'm putting the articles up now. Well, the articles, not really. They're just kind of, I clean up my notes a bit. But on this one, it's going to be a bit of an audio book because this main event, I'll spoil you, it's sensational and the details are important. So I don't really want to breeze over it. I think that would not do it justice. So I'm going to try my best to read this well. But forgive me if it doesn't sound quite as, or if it sounds a little more labored than the rest of this podcast. We've got a bit of time to work with. Okay. The IWGP Heavyweight and the IWGP Intercontinental Double Championship. A match between Jay White and the champion Kota Ibushi. This one actually started with another poem by Charlton, by the way, which, you know what, I won't comment. I'm going to stay positive. But he actually, you know what, he did have some interesting information because he had the attendance. He said it was a combined 20,490 attendees over the two nights. Now, I've since heard news that was actually not correct, but not in the way you would think. That might be the paid number, but there were several thousand more people in the building on both occasions. Having said that, I guess if at any time you were going to make up numbers and make them lower, it'd... These motorbikes. Pick another street. Bloody hell. Sorry. If there was any time when you were going to lower the numbers, it'd be at this time, I suppose, when the government's saying you shouldn't have large groups of people. I don't think that's the reason they did it, but they're just trying to be super honest. This is how many people paid to be here. That's not really what we want to... In terms of like the number, I guess they didn't really announce it. It's just Chris Charlton finding out information and reporting it. But I want to know exactly how many people are there. How many people are available to be making noise to contribute to this show? Okay, but let's get to the match. So White, the challenger, wears white. Ibushi comes out match ready again. No fancy clothing, but he does have a couple fancy belts. He's got the heavyweight title around his waist, and he's got the Intercontinental title over his shoulder. And he really appears to be soaking it in as he walks down the ramp, which at first I was thinking, well, is he making the most of his short time as champion? But I don't know. I'm playing mind games with myself. So I do try, and sometimes I do think about that though. Like, is this guy doing something that he wouldn't do if he was going to lose the match? But I don't know. I'm not much of a mind reader or body language reader even. Jay meets him at the ropes though when Kota does eventually get to the ring, and is just telling him, don't forget how I got this briefcase. He's pointing at his briefcase, these mind games that he's been playing for so long, and it's time to see if they're going to pay off or not. One of the things that Jay White said in the build-up was about the referee. He had requested the short, chubby, tanned one, which I think is Marty Asami. But he gets red shoes, and he doesn't seem to notice. He doesn't seem to comment on it, or I don't know, perhaps he was told in advance and has gotten over it, or maybe he never cared in the first place and just was talking a bunch of rubbish. But yeah, that doesn't play a part in it. That's one of those important little New Japan details that if you really take the time to watch all the little Road 2 shows and all the little promos, it really doesn't pay off on this occasion. It didn't make a difference. Oh well. White and Ibushi go nose to nose before the match begins, and White says he's willing to stay in the ring and fight, and he even tells Gato to drop down off the apron. Of course, if you've seen any Jay White match, he always leaves the ring at the start of the match. And this time he didn't, so that was cool. They've actually surprisingly tied up at the beginning, but less surprisingly, Gato grabs Ibushi's ankle at the first chance he gets, and White takes complete advantage of that. He grabs a hold of Ibushi and just grinds on him, just trying to make all of yesterday's soreness come straight back. I'm sure it was already there, but it's pretty clear what his tactic is at the beginning. But at the first sign of danger, he retreats quickly. Gato becomes involved again, but this time Ibushi elbows him in the mouth, which is already well-deserved, even if we're just looking at this match in a vacuum. Ibushi gets White back into the ring, only to be returned to the mat himself with a DDT through the ropes. And White drags the fight outside the ring once again, hits a high-angle backdrop on the apron, planting Ibushi on his neck. The apron's put to use again as White slams Ibushi's ribs into the edge several times, then back in the ring, and more attacks to the midsection. Seems to be an attack on Ibushi's ability to breathe. And then the constant pins seem less about an effort to win directly from them and more so a device to wear the champion down. It's this systematic breakdown of Ibushi's body. And before long, Jay's, he was confident and cocky before. It's growing. His confidence is growing. But Uno is getting fed up with how far White is bending the rules, telling him several times to get Ibushi out of the corner, in this one instance. And White's combination of indignation and arrogance at being pulled off of his opponent makes for it was a realistic chance for Ibushi to conjure the perfect momentum-shifting strike, and he does, with a swift kick to Jay's chest. There's another kick that follows, and then a standing moonsault, which seemed ill-advised given he had just gone through all of that punishment to his midsection, but, it works for him. White nearly takes back control with an ankle pick, but Ibushi kicks him off, and White tumbles outside. I think Ibushi needs a manager because he goes straight out after Jay. Like, how many times are you going to fall for this? And then, why wouldn't you just wait for him in the ring? Because he's got to come back. And you need a rest, Ibushi. You're not God yet. But, he goes out after him, and lo and behold, Jay pushes Ibushi first into the edge of the apron, and then into the barricade. And then you could say Jay makes his own mistake by returning the match to the ring, but I would disagree with that because his game plan was working. He just needs to get back to it. He doesn't need to leave the ring to be a filthy, sneaky, cheating prick. He can do that in the ring. And he sees his chance while he's there. He cops a power slam, but he's got the energy to meet Ibushi at the turnbuckle and push him off balance. He belts him in the back some more, and then takes an opportunity to target the leg with a dragon screw through the ropes, because of course the legs had been an issue for him as an attack method, of course, for Ibushi, so may as well weaken those too. Every cover he makes, every pin is heavy. He hooks the legs up high. He makes sure Ibushi has to really kick out strong. But Ibushi's still got some hops. He leaps up and counters an advance with a hurricanrana. He goes for too much too soon with the moonsault to the outside though, which is Ibushi in a nutshell. White once again meeting him at the ropes and sending him tumbling outside. Ibushi pulls himself into the ring only to have his stomach dropped on the ropes again, and then a snap suplex in the corner. The offense is varied from White in terms of the moves he's using, but it's extremely singular in terms of purpose. Almost every single one of these moves has the same purpose. He's got a game plan that he's sticking to. He's wearing down the body. He wants to tire the already tired Ibushi out. There is some respite for Ibushi, though. There's a half and half suplex that provided some much needed distance from White, if only temporarily. Then cracking White with a forearm, Ibushi stands up tall and calls on White to return it. And there might be some method to this madness, but that does not relinquish the fact that this still is indeed madness, asking someone to hit you in the face. White returns the forearm at first, but then I think he senses the method. So he goes back to the body when he returns strikes, but Ibushi's already got him. He's successfully dragged him into a striking exchange, of which he has the much greater talent, and he drops Jay with a spinning back kick to the body. A PK misses, however, and then the pair trade roll-up attempts before Ibushi goes one better, standing up, already in position to drop straight down with a bastard driver. And that's a game changer with just over 20 minutes fought, which has flown by. There's a Bomaye that misses, and a back suplex is the receipt, followed by a Uranage and then a Kiwi Crusher. Ibushi kicks out of the pinfall there. The first Blade Runner attempt is read and rolled through, countered into a deadlift teardrop suplex by Ibushi, which kind of popped me. The commentators didn't call it either. They just said, oh, that was a good move. What a maneuver! But I'm pretty sure it was a teardrop suplex. And this leaves Jay vulnerable for an oncoming Bomaye, which earns Ibushi a 2 count. Gato takes off his jacket, seeming to panic a little, but White restores his faith with Old Faithful, the move he used to earn this chance at gold. He rolls He gets a roll up on Ibushi and puts his feet up on the middle rope for extra leverage, but Red Shoes is onto it, and Ibushi has no time for White's protestations to the referee, executing a merciless head kick. White turtles up to avoid the Kamigoye coming, so Ibushi steps back, only to kick him in the temple again as soon as he raises his head. With White laid out, Ibushi decides to fly, and Gato sees his chance to make a difference. Red Shoes is onto him, but the distraction was all that was necessary. White rises, he joins his opponent in the corner, striking him from behind, and then he attempts a sleeper suplex from the top turnbuckle. And they're both up there for what seems like an eternity, struggling for position in a more than precarious situation for both of them. But Ibushi manages to fight Jay off, and again Gato gets involved, this time physically, holding Ibushi's leg. So White continues that trend with a chop block and then repeated dragon screws before the TTO. That tonight could become the ITO, Ibushi tap out. It was originally the Tanahashi tap out. But the champion makes it to the ropes relatively quickly on this occasion. White kicks at Ibushi with one wrist held, but I'm not sure it's having the desired effect. As Kelly aptly puts it, he's summoning the devil. Ibushi rises to his feet with a cold stare, that Ibushi stare, that place he goes to. I shouldn't have said that. White seems to know what he is getting himself into, though. He throws a forearm, and then another, pausing briefly for returns that are not forthcoming. A few more forearms and Ibushi decides it's time for a response. An overhand palm strike to the chest, a kick, and then what looked like a wild punch, which is indicative of the untamed assault to come, because White cowers in the corner and Ibushi just rains down soccer kicks and stomps. Although once Red Shoes gets between them, he heeds the call of the referee, backs into the center, and just stands there staring, waiting for Jay's next move. White staggers over to him and throws a labored forearm, only to be greeted instantly with a stinging blow in return, dropping Jay back down into the same position. But once again, Ibushi stands there, he waits and beckons even for his challenger to come forward, which he does, and once again, the same consequences suffered. Gato's now warning Jay, his pet project, against trying this again, but White has it in his head that he wants to do this. He moves forward again, and this time when he's hit, he gets knocked out of the ring. But Ibushi just stands there. He maintains his position in the center of the ring. Jay goes up to him again. This time thinks better, however, of his chances of success. Dissolves to his knees and gives himself up. Shoulders on the mat, telling Ibushi to pin him. And Ibushi just stands over him and slaps him instead. So Ibushi tries to cover up. So now Ibushi has to pick his shots and he starts throwing punches. So Red Shoes draws a line there and gets between them. But Ibushi shrugs Red Shoes off and he kind of tumbles away. So with the referee's eyes off the action, Jay is in perfect position to just swing his arm straight up and hit a low blow, which he does. Then he moves the contest back outside the ring, where he repeats the back and forth between the barricade and the apron edge from earlier in the match, and he's just grumbling bad words as he does. Then he sends Ibushi into the ring post. He quickly rolls into the ring to break the count, but drags Ibushi up the ramp. He's like, "You want me to hit you?" And he just starts bashing Ibushi with mounted forearms. Fortunately, Red Shoes doesn't count Ibushi out at this point. He decides not to count at all. And it's White in the center of the ring now, beckoning on the champion. Once reunited, Ibushi is welcomed with the reverse STO and then deadlift German suplex combination, that the latter of which looking particularly nasty. And then Jay lands another German suplex just as painfully. White tries one more, but this time he wants to do it on the apron. And Ibushi defends that by using the rope, tries a move of his own that fails before setting up a head kick that drops White back into the ring. They both begin to stir at about the same time, and they're, at this stage, nearly physically spent. Still, Ibushi attempts the spectacular, as if he knows any other way, somehow pulling White off of the apron, over the ropes, and into the ring with a German suplex, with Ibushi standing on the middle rope. And then a surge of energy couples this with a last ride sit-out powerbomb, but White's shoulder just barely lifts from the canvas before the pinfall. Kamigoye is attempted, but Jay dodges it straight into a sleeper suplex, and then he looks to Gato for advice, and he's red in the face, he's got panic in his eyes. He decides on another sleeper suplex and uses his knees to the body to make it happen. And then a regal plex is an odd choice next, but he expertly conducts it, although it can't keep Ibushi down. At this point, the 40-minute mark is called, and for only the second time in the match, White lifts Ibushi into position for the Blade Runner. Kota reverses into a backslide, rolls Jay through, and connects with the Kamigoye. Ibushi makes the cover quickly, but White refuses to be beaten. Ibushi refuses to consider reason, and instead of just going for it again, he goes up top for the Phoenix Splash, but his hubris pays off. He sticks it perfectly. White can't kick out of this, and he doesn't. He didn't have to, because Gato knew what we all knew, and he made sure it didn't happen, pulling Red Shoes from the ring before the third pinfall count could be made. He's not done there either. He slides into the ring with his brass knucks on and takes a swing at Ibushi, but it's caught, and Gato instead catches a Kamigoye with his jaw, and that's his night over. Ibushi fetches Red Shoes and then approaches Jay, who bounces back to life and whips Ibushi into a Blade Runner, planting him dead in the center. Red Shoes hesitates for a moment, but he decides to make the count, and he reaches all of 2.9. Ibushi looks pale in the face despite having kicked out. Rocky thinks this is the first time we've ever seen the Blade Runner kicked out of. And now White's without direction. He hasn't got Gato to help him decide what to do next, and it shows. And Ibushi regains control somewhat, but so it seemed. He kind of forces a deadlift German suplex, as I guess you kind of have to, but White takes advantage of his feet being planted by picking the ankle and rolling him into the TTO. He struggles to secure it right away, but he manages to do so, and it might become the ITO after all, as Ibushi pulls himself toward the ropes, but he's a long way off yet, and White is just begging him to tap out. And Red Shoes, if anything, is getting in the way of Ibushi, which might be what allowed White to shuffle back into the center away from the ropes. And Ibushi seems to have passed out for a moment, but then his eyes widen and that cold stare comes back. Red Shoes should have been a little more urgent to break the hold, though. Ibushi makes it to the ropes, and it's not even that Jay was trying to cheat, or at least it didn't seem that way so much as Jay was just too tired to really maneuver his legs off of the hold. And Red Shoes is just kind of standing there going, hey, you should maybe break that instead of helping, which would have been good. But in any case, White takes control of the neck, kind of like a standing guillotine. He's trying to weigh himself down on top of Ibushi's back, but he can't lift Ibushi up, who begins fighting from underneath with strikes before shoving him off and flying into the air with a knee that appeared to make contact, but not enough to stop Jay from hooking the leg and turning it into a regal plex again. This time, though, well, again, it's for a 2 count. But the move White was trying to hit there was the Bloody Sunday. He tried it a couple times without success, but this time he does. He finally hits it, and then the Blade Runner is to follow that. It's attempted again, but Ibushi slips out and this time gets all of a flying knee. He takes White's wrists, but is kicked away. Ibushi smiles and knees him right back. His next attempt at the Kamigoye is rushed, though, and White nearly counters it into the Blade Runner, only for Ibushi to turn and throw a pounding lariat. the desperation is showing on both of them, though. We're over 45 minutes in now, so who can blame them? But I think Ibushi understands that they've both become too predictable, so he inverts the Kamigoye. He knees White in the back of the head instead. Down comes the knee pad, and one more time, Ibushi fires the Kamigoye straight into the face of Jay White, and the pinfall is counted. Kota Ibushi retains. Ibushi is champion after the longest match in Tokyo Dome history, and it was worth every minute. This is one of the best matches. I mean, look, no, I'll just say it. This is one of the best matches I've ever seen. I think it was the best match of the two shows, and I would be surprised if I saw a better match this year. But it gets better. It actually gets better. So, after the match, they're both pretty tired. And White's kind of clawing at the title belts, just unable to accept the result. And he kind of takes some lame shots at Ibushi he's still on his back, he's still on the ground, until he's restrained by the Young Lions. But Ibushi finally makes it to his feet, and Red Shoes Uno wraps the heavyweight title around his waist. He's done it. But then, of all people, it's Sonata that walks out to cut a promo. So, once again, Ibushi's celebrations are cut short, although this would be a little bit more respectful. And he's looking dapper, let me tell you. He's everything Ospreay pretends to be. But he very respectfully challenges Ibushi, although he adds an arrogant twist to it, suggesting that this offer of his is somehow a gift to Ibushi. Ibushi says that he barely managed to just win that match, but since he holds the titles, he gladly accepts, and they shake hands, and Sonata leaves the champion to his business. And Ibushi says he won't run away, he won't lose, he won't quit, he won't betray you, and he has become God. Ibushi walks up the ramp, and he's drenched with sweat, but you can tell that he's bawling his eyes out. So is Milano, by the way, at ringside. And I mean, the English commentary team were talking about how they were tearing up as well. So, it's such a shame that a match like this wasn't in front of, I mean, not even more people, just people that could have responded, just cheered and booed, you know. But it was still fantastic. And yeah, he makes his way up the ramp, Ibushi, and milks that even more than he milked the entrance. But we go backstage, and White appears somewhat detached from reality. He's picking at his wrist tape, and he's sitting down, but his head's laid down on the table almost, and he's not holding the microphone. He's kind of hard to hear at first. He says he's as the closest to death as he ever has been, and hopefully ever will feel. And then he asks why no one helped him. Like, just, why didn't no one help him to his seat? And he starts to break down, and he's crying, and he's talking about leaving New Zealand and not seeing his parents or his family for 3.5 years after dedicating himself to this. And he starts getting angry, and then he starts kind of laughing, and he falls on the ground. He's asking if everyone's happy to see him fail. He's asking himself why he's wasting his life in Japan, why he's sacrificed all of this for this one moment. He says he doesn't want to do this anymore. He's trained for 8 years, but he's done. He's, you know, if he has to contractually show up tomorrow, then fine. But after that, he's done. And it's a really good promo. It's really, I mean, he's very much living his character, which is something that you in other promotions almost see none of. He is this person. He's living this character, and he's so entitled. He doesn't once congratulate Ibushi. He doesn't once go like, well, he fought a good fight. He doesn't even say he got lucky. He doesn't even mention Ibushi. He just talks about, why me? I did all of this. I deserve it. I should have the title because, I earned it by doing what I've done. He's such a great brat. And I sure hope this is a work, because I do not want to see I want to see his story play out in New Japan. I don't want to see it, pretend to continue in some other place. But yeah, great promo from Jay White. And then Ibushi sits down in front of his 2 title belts once again, probably a little extra tired this time around, and says it's been a long time coming, but he finally understands how heavy these belts are in terms of what they stand for. He said that yesterday he teased a reveal, and he kind of talks about the significance of both titles, but he wants to unite them. He wants to unify the titles, which is really exciting as a belt nerd, as I am. But it's also devastating because the idea of losing the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, it's the most beautiful belt in wrestling today. It's bittersweet, that idea, but it's not as if that's locked in stone. We don't know what's going to happen next. He goes on to talk, Ibushi, about his plans to beat the record number of defenses, which is currently 12. So he says, all right, well, it's going to be at least 13, but I won't stop there. He says, in stark contrast to what Jay White just said about wrestling for 8 years, he says, I've been wrestling for 26 years. And then someone else except John Morgan entered the building, because there's a good question that gets asked. Someone asks Ibushi about his mother. He said, or apparently Ibushi had said that his mother cried when he left school to become a pro wrestler. So the reporter asked, well, what would you say to her now? And he says, Ibushi, that he would say that he kept his word and he didn't let her down. He went into more detail a little bit than that, but he kind of talks around a lot of this stuff, coming back to the same topics. He recognizes Jay White as a great pro wrestler. He wants to fight him as much as possible. He's asked about Sonata. He says that he could fight him right now. And one of the reporters is like, are you sure? And Ibushi kind of takes this big, deep breath and responds with a very confident, yes. Well, he doesn't say yes, but he didn't say hi either. He said something else, but the translation was simply yes. And one of them responds, wow, you really have become God. So he's asked to clarify how he sees his future defenses going. And he says that, look, if he was asked to defend the titles individually, that he would, but he does continue talking about wanting to unify them. And then he's asked about what Naito, well, I mean, we talked about Okada yesterday. He didn't want to say what he told Will Ospreay after the match, and it's similar here. He's asked about what Naito said to him after the match, and Ibushi said that he doesn't remember anything, but he says it in a way that it kind of makes it clear that he just doesn't want to answer that question. But yeah, that's it. Ibushi is, I mean, Jay White's promo was really memorable in how emotional it was, and just how he sticks to that character is really it's really something else. It's top tier. And then Ibushi's he really sets up the year ahead. He's making it sound like he's really going to make changes as champion, and he's making some big promises. So that was a huge end to the night. And it's funny because you think about it. Well, I remember thinking about it ahead of time and thinking the first night was a stronger card. And of course, the second card was, especially when we found out it was Ibushi going through and not Naito, that's a card lacking in star power, if we're being frank. No Tanahashi, no Okada, no Naito, and it ended up producing two of the very best matches that we're going to see this year. Shingo and Jeff Cobb, and for sure, Jay White and Kota Ibushi. Wow. 1 minute 20. Let's run through New Year Dash real quick, because unfortunately, I was really looking forward to it, but spoiler alert, we're going back to negativity. It wasn't much to this one. They were in, so of course, New Year Dash, the next day, the 6th of January. It was in Tokyo Dome City Hall, which is the first time New Japan's been there since 2012. It's a smaller venue than Korakuen, but it's a nice venue. It looks cool. It's like the side facing the stage is really steep and high, so it probably it's probably not a bad seat in the house. And you know, they never announce anything of great significance on these, you know, before the show, because of course the card's kept secret until the announcement's made before the show. But yeah, it's still exciting, even though I know nothing big's probably going to be announced. We'll run through them though. So the first match was Gabriel Kidd and Yuji Nagata, and real fun match. You know what you'd expect between these guys. They're laying it in, and actually the commentary team's a bit distracted though, because they're talking about Ibushi's big plans that he was talking about. They were talking about Jay White and if he's going to quit the sport or even just quit the company. And Kelly's comparing White to Michael Jordan, who retired from basketball in his prime. Charlton's comparing him to Lesnar, who he's saying he retired in 2004, which is odd because he's skipping Lesnar's New Japan run. Not that anyone wants to remember that. Although, funny it comes up here, because that's what I'm going to be talking about next week. I'm going to be doing some history stuff while New Japan figures out exactly what they're going to be doing while Tokyo's in lockdown. But I'll come back to that maybe at the end here. Nagata kind of takes over the match, hits a big kick, hits an exploder, locks in the Nagata lock 2, and Kid has nowhere to go, has to tap. Good opener. Kid says after the match he was really fired up from watching Wrestle Kingdom, and he was inspired by Jeff Cobb and Shingo clubbing the shit out of each other, is a quote. And he wanted to come into this match aggressive and dominate Nagata. He says he's not a kid. He's 10 years into this business and he's here to win. Kid often rambles in these promos, but this was actually a pretty good one from him. And Nagata just says after the match that he recognizes Kid's progress, and that's why he gave him hell, and it'll do him good. The following match was Uemura and Tiger Mask versus Doki and Suzuki, and Uemura wants Suzuki, who's just laughing off his challenge at first. And in fairness, Doki is more than capable of giving Uemura a challenge because he beat him in the Best of Super Juniors, but still, Uemura is distracted. Every time he gets a chance at Suzuki, he knocks him off the apron. And Suzuki kind of pouts about it at first until he gets his chance to drag the Kid outside and give him the beating he inexplicably pleaded for. And then Doki tags Suzuki in, so that makes the beating legal. I actually noted that Uemura is taller than Suzuki. So there's hope for this kid as a heavyweight after all. But Tiger Mask only kind of makes a quick cameo. He does a rubbish Tiger Driver, but we won't mention that. And then, it was enough to give Uemura a break anyway. So he rushes back in with renewed vigor against Suzuki, but ends up going down to the Gotch-style pile driver. Charlton points out, though, that last time they were in the same match together, Suzuki deemed Uemura unworthy of the pile driver, and in putting it to use this time, it's kind of a twisted showing of respect from Suzuki. After that match, Tiger asks Uemura if he can talk, but he can barely even stand up. So he says he's going to kick Suzuki's ass. And Suzuki, on his promo, calls him a punk, And he asks if Uemura sees him as a stepping stone. He says, all right, well, I've got a New Year's gift for you. I'll give you a fight right now. And Doki, I was doing so well. Doki still wants to call out Jado. But it looks like they might make that match, Uemura and Suzuki. So, cool. I'm down with that. Next one, Tsuji, Tenzan, Kojima versus Khan, Cobb, and Ospreay. Yoda, again, these young lions, they want to make their mark. Yoda gets in Jeff's face, and he looks really comparable physically. Like, he's taller than Cobb, but Cobb's a bit thicker. And they ended up having a pretty cool exchange in this one. Ospreay aggressively attacks Kojima, while Khan starts with Tenzan in the ring. Kojima fires his machine gun chops at Ospreay. There's they let Tsuji loose on Cobb, who of course is a day removed from a really punishing match, but it's still impressive to see Tsuji overpower him a couple of times. And then, they have a cool spot where the Cobb kind of takes back over there, and then the Empire clear the ring, and they set up a 3-man Oz cutter. So they've got Cobb and Khan holding up Tsuji on their shoulders like pallbearers. That's like actual pallbearers, not pallbearer. And Ospreay leaps off the top turnbuckle and hits the cutter like that. So, they win the match there. And Ospreay, and they all continue their assault. Ospreay's mounted punches look pretty good. A lot of the time they, when people are doing these extended beatings, which is a rant for a different time, they don't, it looks too fake because they take too long. And this one took too long as well, but, Ospreay just, at least his punches look good. They were probably real, that's why. Poor old Tsuji, he can cop it, he's young. And then Tenzan tries to save him, but Okan takes him out, and he hits a TTD on Tenzan, which looked pretty cool. It kind of, I don't know, I kind of like that move for him better than the Eliminator. But Ospreay puts the exclamation point on the message with a hidden blade on Kojima. However, it's Tenzan that everyone's worried about. Ospreay takes the mic and he's yelling. He's going, you consider my team weak. I think we look pretty strong now. He's pissed off at the idea that they're defined by these Wrestle Kingdom results, which, for those of you playing at home, is 0-3. But they're now called the United Empire, so that's a big deal. Khan yells without a mic, which is his thing, such as his diaphragm skills are. And Ospreay's just really, really angry. I'm not sure why he's this angry. I understand why he's not happy, but he just seems like an emotional wreck, or like has some kind of emotional problem. Anyway, they've successfully beaten down this team of a youngster and 2 veterans, and they really carefully, like doctors and everyone comes in, and they really carefully strap Tenzan into a stretcher. And I was like, am I worked if I rewind this and watch the TTD again to see if this is real? Like, was he actually a bit too low? And I decided, yes, I would be worked if I rewound this to see if the TTD was a botch and he was really hurt. And I did it anyway. I rewound it and I didn't see anything wrong with it. It didn't look particularly cautious or anything, but it didn't look like anything went wrong. So I'm pretty sure it's a work. But that's what it is. That's what you do. They did this so well that it leaves that question in your head. Like, you're pretty sure it's just a work. But they did everything the same way they would do it if someone was really hurt. So it works. And then backstage, Tsuji says that he wants to find his way to Mexico somehow, which it's exciting that he's thinking about his excursion, but I think he might want to rethink Mexico at this time anyway. Kojima is irate over these actions. It doesn't stay there long. Ospreay comes back and repeats himself. says he's going to end Kojima as well. Cobb nearly doesn't talk. He nearly does the right thing, but at least he keeps it short. Although he doesn't even make sense. He's like, you think we were united before? You ain't seen nothing yet. Like, oh really? We ain't seen nothing? I remember seeing all of you get beat, you bloody dork. And then Khan comes in. He's pretty happy with himself, but he says that they're currently without a fortress and without an emblem. Whatever that means. I don't know if that's literally like an emblem, like they don't have a little tag to put on the entrance graphic, or if he means something deeper than that. I don't know. The next match was Kanemaru, Desperado, and Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr., 4 of them, Suzuki Gun guys, versus El Phantasmo, Taiji Ishimori, Tangaloa, Tamatonga, and they're with Jado. So it's a 4-on-4 match. Kelly says they're still deciding whether Tenzan's going to hospital or not. And I'm kind of thinking, why would you say that? Because if it's anything close to serious, it's his neck. Of course they're going to send him to hospital. So it kind of, I don't know, takes me out of it a bit, I think. But although I guess you could say, I suppose it might speak to the level of care available in-house. But I don't know, that sounds like an odd thing to say to me. Anyway, the Toggans swagger out boastfully, clearly looking to get under the skin of the former champions, and they very clearly get that job done. Taichi is so mad. He hates these guys. And it's very much the brawl you would expect to begin, with very little regard for the match being legally one-on-one at a time in this tag match. But just as it seemed as though Tama and Despy were adhering to that, Jado cracks Despy with the cane, and the match falls apart again. And it appears Phantasmo is a bad influence on Ishimori. He does that. He jumps off the top rope, and this is ELP's, a move of his. He jumps off the top rope like he's going to do something spectacular, and then he just does a back rake. And then Ishimori repeats that. Real bad influence. And it's Despy that the Bullet Club are isolating from his team, and they're maintaining their smug attitude all the while. ELP takes it a step further with a double nipple cripple on Despy, which is just, that's got to be a DQ. I mean, pushing the referee around, using chairs, using tables is one thing, but a double nipple cripple? Come on, New Japan. Come on, IWGP committee. Put your foot down. Anyway, they finally tag Zack in. He goes on a bit of a hot tag run. Won't let go of a guillotine on Loa until finally transitioning into a triangle and then an armbar, while the rest of Suzuki Gun entered to make sure their teammate isn't interrupted, as it finally turned the tables on Bullet Club. But Loa counters an oncoming Sabre kick with a breath-stealing spear tackle. He crunched him with that. Kanemaru and ELP is an interesting combination given how devious they both are, but the veteran has the early advantage until ELP's loaded boot makes for the final trick, knocking Kanemaru out cold. And he and Ishimori take the junior tag belts to highlight their challenge, whilst Taichi's mostly concerned with his iron glove, which is still missing. Of course, Tama's still got that. He was teasing him with it at the start, I don't think I mentioned, in the entrance. And Charlton explains that it's more than just the fact that it's his property. Of course, Izuka gave that iron glove to Taichi. He gifted him this weapon and when he retired. So apparently they had a bit of a father-son connection, or mentor kind of connection. So yeah, it means more to him than just a weapon. It's a bit of an heirloom of kinds, I suppose, this iron glove. Backstage, Kanemaru claims there was something in his boot. ELP's boot, of course. Zack and Taichi have dragged the referee into the press area. They abuse him and kick him. Like, how much do these referees get paid? Why would you want this job? Gosh. And then Despy accepts the challenge from ELP and Ishimori, And he says, at least they'll be better than their last challenges. Taichi says, the consequence for stealing from him is him taking your life. So I think that might be the 18th time Taichi has threatened murder on these guys. I hope one of them doesn't actually die in suspicious circumstances. Obviously, I don't want it to happen anyway, but I really don't want Taichi to be the first one they question, because he will be. And then... Oh, Taichi has a cold sore too. Better get that checked out. Get some cream. Go to the pharmacy, Taichi. Maybe use a face mask for a different reason. Don't go kissing any girls. But yeah, and then funnily enough, he doesn't consider that defeat fair due to the use of the weapon, although he's referring to the tag team title match in which they were kind of, I suppose, baby faces by default in a way. Zach calls them the Chodes of Destiny, and he says that they are going to take everything from them. And then Zach says he's going to go to Coco's to get a vegan curry before he batters both of those pricks with his soy boy power. I don't have the promo skills of Zack Sabre Jr., unfortunately. And Taichi demands that they set a title match immediately or else. And then Doki was hiding somewhere, and he jumps out and appears to call out. He calls out Jado again. Oh, the hype for that match, huh? And then ELP is back there. He says he's got the stiffest super kick in the business. And Despi's next. And Tama speaks in Japanese, asking Taichi where his iron fingers went. Apparently Tama's trying to appeal more to the Japanese market lately. And that was behind his decision to clean up his look. Cut his hair, cut his beard. Or shave his beard. And then Jado says, or he wonders if Doki showed up just to get his ass kicked. And if so, mission accomplished. And then finally Ishimori asks if he keeps being overlooked because he is short. And I would say to him that that is entirely possible. 2 more matches on the card here. We got Owens, Yujiro, Farley, and Evil, with Togo, of course. NJ White with Gato versus Yoshihashi, Goto, Yano, Ishii, and Okada. And Charlton wonders if this is the last time we're going to hear Jay White's music. He's the last of the pack to walk out, but he just kind of appears emotionally neutral. He doesn't respond to his name being announced. He's not interested in being in the ring, it seems at first. He's got a lot of tape across his shoulders and halfway down his back, the sports tape. Owens calls out Yano, that's who actually starts, but he tries to throw, he gets out and grabs the trophy. He tries Owens to throw the trophy into the crowd, but Yano catches his arm, takes the trophy, runs back to the corner and tags out to protect it. And then the Chaos team works pretty well together. They kind of clear the ring. They drag Togo into the ring, and they do that beat down thing where they're all in a circle and they all punch him in the back. Evil tags in to fight Okada, but that doesn't go too well for him until Togo gets involved. But you can see Jay starting to get a little more invested, particularly when Red Shoes refused to count a cover after Evil was up to his usual tricks on the outside, and Jay pretty vehemently protests that. Evil tags Jay in and seems to be... He seems to be motivated for a moment, but then he just tags straight back out after just one neck breaker on Okada. But then he tags back in moments later, still against Okada, and he starts patronizingly patting Okada on the head, and then he starts aggressively stomping him into the Bullet Club corner. Ishii's seen enough, so he runs in and tries to take a bunch of them out, but they overpower him, and Bullet Club's just completely taken over this match. The commentary spent a lot of the time talking about White and his future. Okada finally tags out, and it's Ishii against Switchblade, and they have a bit of an extended sequence, which is unavoidably good. Those two are fantastic. Chaos combines well on Jay, but the Kiwi comes back anyway on Ishii, although he's a bit slow and laborious with his Switchblade attempt. So Ishii manages to counter it, given he's fresh, and he hits the Brainbuster. Ishii pins Jay White. He gets a huge win over the former number one contender, or last night's number one contender at least. And Kid and Gato have to help Jay White from the ring. So, yeah, that was a big result there. And I suppose if it's just Jay White's going to take a bit of a break, like, what a great match to bring him back with, because there's no harm beating Ishii. You know, Ishii's invincible in terms of being over. He can lose all the time. Everyone's still going to love watching his matches. And he can still make each of those matches, despite losing, mean a lot, because he is so great. He makes every match seem like you had to overcome the odds to beat him. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that's what it is, that a couple months down the line, or whatever it is, Jay White makes his triumphant return, and that's his first kind of real match, just in the mid-card of some pay-per-view, or mid-card of some event, whatever, and beats Ishii in a classic that I'm sure they can have. And then, yeah, makes his way back toward the title. But the promos after this one, Owens calls out Yano for the King of Pro Wrestling 2021 trophy. Yano says he'll never be able to understand the bond he has with his trophy. That's what he always says. Okada sees this as a positive start to the year, but noticed his teammates hold gold, and he does not. So he thinks his bad year started with Evil. He gets a bit sassy. He points out that Evil didn't do much defending of the title, and he doesn't think Togo's much use to him, but he wants to face Evil for some payback. Evil's in a different room, of course. He thinks Okada singled him out because he isn't over his New Japan Cup loss to him, and turns out he was right. He says, if Okada wants a fight, I'm here for it. And then Ishii actually talks. He's the last in there. He says he accepts White was weakened, but he kind of tells White not to let the loss get to him, and to come back for some revenge. Cool. All right. Last match. Wato, Romero, Show, Wato. What? I put Wato twice. I think that's... Oh no, I've missed someone. Wato, Romero, Show, someone, and Kota Ibushi. Should I quickly look it up? Does it even matter? Let me see if I can find someone's name in here. Bush? No, Bushi's on the other team. Oh, Tanahashi. It was Tanahashi. Okay, let me just fix this up here. Hiroshi Tanahashi and Kota Ibushi versus Bushi, Hiromu Takahashi, Shingo Takagi, Sanada, and Tetsuya Naito. Significantly, when it comes to the entrances here, Sanada comes out last for Team LIJ. So they're... Which, I mean, it makes sense. They're kind of, Naito's... Excuse me while I move my chair. Stepping back. As now Sanada's the number one contender. But... And then Wato's got... I think... Is that a new coat? He's got like a shiny blue coat. I don't remember that one. It looks a bit much. I don't know if he wore it last night. But... Oh yeah. Tanahashi takes his time with his introduction. Hitting 2 turnbuckles. While the referee calls out, not the referee, the announcer calls his name, making the new champion wait on the outside. Anyway, Show and Hiromu start, give us a preview of their championship match to come, until Rocky tags himself in, thanks Rock. Shingo makes him pay for that, and then Naito makes him pay for it as well. Who does fine, by the way, Naito. He's doing okay until Bushi comes in and ruins it, and then Rocky takes forever to move half a meter to tag in Ibushi, so Sanada gets to him first, and they're all beating up Rocky, but Sanada stuffs it up quickly enough that the tag happens soon after. Ibushi is somehow full of energy. I suppose it's his godliness, and he battles with Sanada for a bit until he does put Ibushi in the Paradise Lock. And then Tanahashi and Shingo trade. They actually trade twists and shouts. They look like they belong in a 80s hair metal band together, those two. But they are going to be in a match together. Not before, we get that announcement soon, but before that, Bushi completely humiliates Wato by picking up the win with an MX. Although I think he beat him in the Best of Super Juniors as well. But anyway, yeah, Shingo and Tanahashi square off after the match, and Takagi offers him out. Sho and Hiromu were squaring off. We knew about that one anyway. We knew about Sonata and Ibushi. They're all squaring off respectfully. And yeah, on his way out, Ibushi sure is strutting. He likes the look of those titles on him. But LIJ stay in the ring, and Bushi grabs the mic first. He says, well, I was hoping that it would just be introducing his friends, but instead he continues. He puts himself in the same boat as Naito, just no plans. So he challenges Master Wato. And I'm just thinking at this point, surely they're not ending the show on this, but that's exactly what they did. LIJ pose. Hiromu sets up his trophies at the front, and Naito kind of jokingly tells him, get those out of the way. And then he teases Hiromu later as well, Naito, pulling up the bottom rope to tease helping Hiromu get out of the ring. And then yeah, that was it. That was it. The commentary team are just kind of talking about how the upcoming events are uncertain, obviously because of the state of the virus. So we don't know what's next. I'll run through this the promos though. So Rocky's happy to be back in Tokyo. Wato's happy to fight Bushi again. He's going to win. Bushi seems to think calling Wato by his full name, Kawato, is a really clever insult, so he keeps doing that. Sho recalls a time when he made a goal when he was in college to become IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, and he says he was going for Hiromu when he faced Ishimori, but it seems like that was for selfish reasons because he had that win over Ishimori in the Best of Super Juniors, so he knew that would get him a title shot. Hiromu's happy with that though. He thanks Sho because he's so much fun to fight. And Tanahashi says he never retires. No, wait. He says he never tires. He never gives up. He never stays down. So he embodies this never title. And he plans his comeback through the never title. Shingo says he's already found his first target of 2021, and he calls Tanahashi a phony regarding his motivations. He tells him to bring his all to this fight for the title. And then Ibushi doesn't want to talk about the loss of the match just now, but he is looking forward to his first defense against Sonata. And that is it. That was the show. And in terms of the next show, because I don't think there's really anything coming up for current New Japan, I'm going to go back. I've been watching old New Japan for quite a while. I've got a lot of notes on it. So if you're interested, I'm going to start that next week and kind of just do it anytime there's not a lot of current New Japan news. Just do some... I'm just basically going to go back to the beginning of... I don't know if I can call it this era, but the beginning of the Tanahashi era, when Inokiism, as everyone calls it, ended, and Tanahashi came through, kind of became a star. I guess kind of the... Well, actually, I would call it the Wrestle Kingdom era, because I think it started with the first Wrestle Kingdom in 2007. So around about that time. We'll do a little bit of preamble as well, so that folks that haven't seen that stuff can understand what was going on beforehand. But look forward to that next week. Another big podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, I put the article up, I don't know. I cleaned up my notes and put them up on cagesideseats.com. So just look for Jim Rowan there. I did the first night of Tokyo Dome. I'll put the second night up after this as well, and link this so you can do both. If you like reading my words and hearing my words by me, then gosh, you're in luck. I'm going to start doing a bit more of that because I was being pretty slack with my articles on that site. So look out for that. Thank you for listening. Until next time, have a good one.